I'm Peter Ostick, and this is When I Grow Up, a podcast about purpose, meaning, and how we and our kids can thrive in a world being rewritten by AI. In this episode, I'm joined by the brilliant Georgie Healy, head of Google's AI startup Accelerator in Australia, and host of In the Blink of an AI, when she interviews the top founders in AI in the world. Georgie opens up about how AI is reshaping her career, the tools she actually uses, and most powerfully, how she thinks about the future of education and the opportunity for her two young kids in an AI-driven world. If this conversation resonates, hit subscribe, like, or leave a comment. It helps us reach more people navigating the coming wave of AI. All right. Georgie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Pete. I'm excited to be here.
How does it feel to be on the other side of the questions?
Honestly, I need to do this just to be a better host, I'm sure, but it's way easier just asking the questions and then sitting back and chilling out.
I'll be nice. I'll be nice, I promise. So, for anyone who's not come across Georgie before, Georgie is the host of the In the Blink of AI podcast. Another great play on the AI, like that as well. And Georgie also is now working at Google at and correct me if I'm wrong, so it's the accelerator part of Google. And is it AI specifically is it the
That's
AI specific?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Tell me about
it's
that.
called an AI First Accelerator, and frankly, they've done it all over the world, and it's been really successful. But last year was the first time we've launched it in Australia, and that's what I was brought on to lead. And we pair seed and Series A AI startups, so it's later maturity than normally you'd expect of an accelerator. And we pair them with like 50 Google mentors and some external mentors as well for a 10-week period.
That's really cool. So you're a year into that? Is the
Yeah, I
actual
had my
accelerator?
anniversary a few weeks ago, actually. We do start kind of planning the process quite far in advance. So it's April now, and we'll probably open applications in June, July. And that time is spent, making sure we've got appropriate mentors. We want very specifically AI tech mentors dedicated to each startup as well. And so this is volunteer work for the Googlers, but I was quite surprised it didn't take much twisting of their arm. They were really excited to be that close with a startup. And yeah, it's kind of the planning behind the scenes. What does a program look like? What does boot camp look like? What are we noticing in the ecosystem in terms of AI startups that we want to encourage to apply and things like that?
So it's a cohort. You go together as part of a cohort, and how long does the cohort last?
So it's 10 weeks, but the
Yeah.
first week is boot camp, which is in person at Google Sydney headquarters. We fly in startups that come from other places. Last year we had people coming from Noosa and from Melbourne, obviously. There was some Sydney. And boot camp, you get to actually see all your mentors in person, and then the rest of the program's virtual from there. And then we bring them all back again for the demo day in the end of the year. So it was December last year. We're kind of angling for a little bit earlier, maybe late November this year, because December's crazy. Like, I didn't predict how crazy December really would be. So yeah.
And so it has to be a company that's in AI. It's a series, so seed to Series A has to be in AI, and there's a 10-week program. And does Google take an equity stake in the companies that go through the cohort? How's it work, or is it at the end of it, or is it none at all? What's the
Yeah, it's a
deal there?
great question. And this is something that I had to I realized I really needed to re educate at least the Australian ecosystem, because you're right. Most of the accelerators, the Techstars, the Startmates, the Antlers, that's a program I actually went through as a founder. You get given money but you give them equity in return. And it's like a very VC, financially driven focus. for Google, that's not our interest or our expertise. We're not VC investors. It's really about the AI tech that's being used and promoting the fact that Google is supporting that technology. So I guess, like, if you were to put a really cynical take, it's great marketing for Google, right? We're at the coalface of innovation in Google at AI and have been for many years. And we want to see what startups are using the tools for on the ground, and it's quite exciting for the Google engineers to see exactly how their products are being used.
That's cool. So it's promoting Google's products within the startup ecosystem, getting to play with them, but also getting the engineers to see what's actually happening within the startup space. Yeah, so everyone's feeling good about that.
Yeah, it's honestly such a lovely role for me. I'm not a salesman. I don't know how to kind of sell snake oil, even if I wanted to. And frankly, it's like the easiest sell ever. The engineers and the Google marketing team and go to market experts and stuff are pumped to be part of it. And startups don't have to give away equity. They solve big challenges during that program. So at the very beginning, we teach them the OKR method that Google champions. And, we don't dictate what their goals should be for the 10 weeks. If it's a go to market goal or an AI specific goal or a people goal, product goals, we don't try and push them one way or another. And then we connect them with mentors to help them solve that in the 10 weeks. So that's really my biggest, challenge is, can we solve those goals that they have in these 10 weeks?
Yeah, amazing. And so how many cohorts have been through now?
In Australia, we've only had one. So last year was the first ever cohort. There was a lot of pressure. I was like, this better be good, because it's been really good when it was launched in Israel, Southeast Asia, Japan, North America, Canada. It's been everywhere. So and very successful. And I was like, oh gosh, if it's not successful, I know who the problem is.
No pressure.
Yeah. But it was really good. We're doing another cohort this year. We're going to make it even bigger than last year. Last year we keep the cohorts really small deliberately so we can give that very like hands-on attention. So we only had 8 startups last year, and this year, I mean, we'll see. But hot take is that we might have 10 or 11 startups
Okay.
this year. So it's
Exciting.
really got my work cut out for me.
Yeah. And so you're truly at the coal face of seeing what is breaking in the ecosystem and AI. So great person to speak to. So thanks for connecting. With the cohort that you've seen in the first cohort, was there any themes around the types of companies that you were seeing? What type of problems were they trying to solve? Was there any like big standouts that you can talk about?
I mean, the funny thing is, what surprised me was how diverse the verticals that went through the cohort. We had prop tech, we had ed tech, like education, we had deep engineering solutions with like RAG and embedding and things like that, things that were completely over my head, still trying to get my head around it. We had, like a very diverse set of startups that went through. Out of all 8, none of them were doing anything similar to anyone else.
Okay.
And in terms of their challenges, something that surprised me that was consistent across the startups are, these are AI first companies. They are building models themselves. These are very technical founders.
Mhm.
But what really seemed to resonate with them was UI UX and product support. So they talk to their customers, they're great at sales, they're fantastic at tech, but that kind of product perspective and getting customers to understand the product and speak to them, when they first open that landing page, does the product really sing through to the everyday customer?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And so when you say the AI first and the building their own models, do they not connect at all into any of the large language models that are out there, that they're literally built from the ground up? Is that the It's something.
It's not a
Yeah.
requirement. I
Yeah.
mean, Springboard's one of our incredible startups that went through. They are just going from success to success.
Mm,
They kind of use many different AI models and platforms,
mm.
and iterate based on what the best need is. They'll go after the best model. If it's Gemini, great. If it's AWS, great. But they're very much agnostic as long as the outcome is good for the customer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the areas that I'm trying to understand more with, because you hear a lot about AI wrapper companies and large language
Yeah.
models, and um, I feel like I'm still trying to learn where the large language models stop and where these kind of like built from the ground up companies are as well. Um, so it's interesting, yeah, because I was maybe of the wrong assumption that like a lot of these AI companies were actually connecting into some sort of large language model and then building some sort of fancy UI on the front of it and getting
You're
prompt.
not wrong. I mean, I asked this of a guest recently too. This is something I find fascinating as well. Perplexity, you might have heard of. It's a wrapper. It's what we call a wrapper, and it's incredibly successful. And people love the the interface, and they don't really care what's behind the scenes because the way they interact with that model, it feels more human, it feels more personable. So me as a consumer, um, I want the best quality model, and I want the best experience that helps me with my everyday life the best. Frankly, ChatGPT, I can find it a bit cringe the way it responds. I wouldn't copy paste anything it gave me into my LinkedIn post, for example. It just comes across very jarring. Whereas Perplexity, a lot of people that use it say that it feels more conversational and more human.
Conversational, authentic, yeah.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's a question that I had, given that you work at Google, but you're also access to all these new AI companies. Are the AI tools that you're like using every day that you just like, oh my gosh, like how did I operate, in life without these? Is there any? Do you have any that you're just like, okay, without these, I just don't know how I operated?
Oh my gosh, I love nerding out on this stuff. I mean, one example I give to people that seems to get the most reaction is, you and I have kids, right? And when you start the school year, there's often like, here's a PDF 2 pages long of every calendar thing that you need to pop in your calendar right now. And you're like, yeah, that's going to take me hours, and what a waste of time. Gemini is incredible because its workspace is connected to your Gmail and Google Maps and different things like that. So you can just ask Gemini, hey, I've copy pasted these dates. Can you just plonk them straight into my Gmail calendar? And that's like, I would be really cranky if you made me go back to the old way,
Yeah,
frankly.
yeah, yeah. So out of the cohorts, then, so you're seeing things in ed tech and property tech. Um, what sort of things were you seeing in education tech? Is obviously given the focus of this podcast, and when AI grow up, and we both have kids, and we'll dig into that. But what was the focus around education? What was the problem that people are trying to solve there?
Yeah, so Hamal, the founder of Love Heart AI, and I think they've rebranded. They're not called Love Heart AI anymore.
Oh, that's a
So
nice name. I like it.
yeah, I liked it too. It was a cute logo with a love heart. I loved
Oh, there
it.
you go.
He's got a really strong background building childcare centres, and
Okay.
something he really noticed was um, and this really rang true for me because I've got one child that just started school this year and the other one's still full time in daycare. Is daycare educators are, government mandated to write reports and take photos and share these with the parents. And though I love photos of my child at school, a child's having an incredible moment. They're having some kind of breakthrough, and the first instinct for that educator isn't to be with the child and chat through that experience with the child. Is to go get the camera, take a photo, write up a report. So the child's kind of by themselves in that moment and kind of gets a screen in front of their face. That was a story that really was compelling to me because the educators are incredible and they would much be better off focusing on the relationships with these young children. And through no fault of their own, they're being forced to do this extra admin. But if you could have AI do that for you or craft up the reports for you, or you could dictate that thing later and not have to do it in the moment and have the extreme amount of admin burden that comes with hand typing up all these notes for every single child, you can be more present. And I thought
Yeah,
that was
okay.
really incredible.
Yeah. Are you seeing a lot of tools around the administration layer, like just the automation of like just things that are just there's just friction, administration? Is that
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
seeing it a lot. I'm seeing a lot of everything. I'm
Mm,
seeing, deep domain experts that are ex lawyers or ex accountants that are just like this, you know, I am an expert in mergers and acquisitions, and lawyers are, spending way too much time doing stuff that AI could, one, do better and do a lot more efficiently, and then they can focus on the relationship with their clients and things like that. I'm seeing a lot of domain expertise being focused on, and then as a result of that, kind of workflows associated with those
okay.
industries.
That makes sense. So understanding the industry, understanding the problem, still incredibly important because then now you have these tools that can go out and help solve the problems that you might have been feeling for how long, but you still, having that depth of understanding is pretty vital.
Yeah, and Pete, I don't know if you find it as like compelling as I do, but I think, not everyone can build an AI company that can compete with these large language models and these big companies, the OpenAIs and the Googles of the world. But you know what Google would not and could not compete with is M&A lawyers specific, model that's specific to lawyers that goes through the regulatory and security landscape that lawyers specifically would find compelling and answers their special needs. So they're the kinds of companies that I think are really exciting.
Interesting. So it's that deep nuance of an area that it's just hard to train for, right? It's hard to, when I spoke to old colleagues and friends, even within ad tech, and I've spoke about how they utilize in AI and stuff like that. One of the common themes is sometimes it's just really hard to get the level of like data on the specific problems that they're working on. So if you're working with a big broadcaster or a big traditional publisher, for example, sometimes it's actually hard to understand all the nuance of the problem there. So you almost, when we were talking about it, it's almost like you need to take some of these people who've worked on the business and almost like interview them to get the data out of the process to be able to build a model around it. And maybe that happens one day, but at the moment, it's still pretty tricky.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like, who are the people that are actually in the operations side of things, or even like seeing the customer questions or feedback or, that kind of stuff? They should be the ones building for sure. Um, and anyone that's had years of experience doing that, they're going to have the most incredible insights and build the most incredible models, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I got really excited around Christmas time. I got really excited about this, like this a gentle wave, like agent AIs, and I started seeing some of the first ones. So the kind of concept of that, so the idea of these autonomous agents going off and acting on your behalf, and not just sat there kind of like prompting. You create the prompt, and it go and kind of works. Have you seen actually anything in using a gentle systems or a gentle methodology that you thought, okay, this is a step, this is the next step?
Oh, so it's the year of the AI agent, Pete.
Mm.
I don't know if you keep hearing this all the
Yeah,
time. I
I
ask
felt it for
every
sure.
guest on the show about, you know, agents. And
Mm,
the hot take is that 99% of what you see called agentic or
mm,
agental is just a workflow with AI.
yeah.
um, and I think that's not wrong.
Mm,
I think for something to be truly agentic, according to the experts that I ask,
mm,
it genuinely needs to think for itself and go and complete those tasks itself. Um, if you've had to build every if then statement behind the scenes, I believe that that's not necessarily what we really are talking about. It reminds me of AGI, if I'm honest. AGI, this world in which computers are completely autonomous and don't need human intervention at all. Some people are like, oh, it'll be here in 2 years. Well, it really depends on your definition. I don't think that truly will exist in 2 years. But if you ask Sam Altman, who has a lot of people that he's promised that to, he might disagree with me. And it depends on your definition.
yeah. It's interesting. I had like my own personal use case. So this YouTube channel is, going live. I was being meaning to build branding for it, and banners and thumbnails and stuff like that. And I've done a bunch of interviews, not a lot of building of the design. You see where my zone of genius lies there. Um, and so I was like, okay, I watched a Y Combinator podcast talking about Manus, and it was like this agentic platform comes out of China, and everyone's very excited about it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna put myself on the wait list to try and use this, and it came through like a couple of days later. I was like, oh, I've got like the Willy Wonka ticket to try this thing out. I'm gonna try and build some banners, and see what I can do. And it was very exciting. You created a couple of prompts and pressed go pretty much, and it was like off, and it kind of goes off for like 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, kind of like working, and you can see it working, and you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm off. Like, I was literally in the back garden doing like kettlebell swings, doing a
While it's
workout
doing your job
while
for
it's
you.
doing my
Great.
work, coming back
Yeah,
and
that's
going,
awesome.
like, this is it.
That's the
This is it.
dream.
I finally like hit the thing, and it came back, and it was a bit like, yeah, like, okay, like it created some of the things, and then they were kind of like passable. It would have been like passable maybe like 2 years, like YouTube 2 years ago, before everything got very cinematic and like very beautiful. Um, but I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was like, okay, can you make it editable? And it created this little application, and it was like, okay, you can like, you have to start doing things now in like in Python. It started giving me these Python. By that time, I was like, I probably started spending time. I put the kettlebell down at that point of like, I'm started diving in, because anytime it's like I feel like I'm starting to learn like Python or something like that, I'm like, oh, I'm a hacker here. I'm like going for it. I'm going like deep. But
You're a software engineer now. Okay, I
exactly.
understand.
Yeah,
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 cool,
yeah,
cool, cool.
yeah, exactly. And then like 2 hours later, I was like, oh, this is still a bit crap. Um,
Mm.
and so it was like, okay, do I go to Fiverr, or do I actually just spend some time in Canva and actually try and build something? Honestly, within like a couple of hours, I had something in Canva, which was like, this is so much better. A few tweaks of it, and suddenly. So I'm just interested because, I think a lot of people are talking about like the death of like SaaS, and like where on that wave that is. And that was like a real life kind of like problem, right? So like when I think about it, I think about like Soma. So we're here with Soma in the background behind it. So it's kind of a luxury retreat. And so when we build like branding or content and stuff like that, it's very glossy. We have like humans taking beautiful photos and like editing and videos. Everything's very, very like high level kind of edited. But if you compare like what I'm trying to do with the podcast, for example, a little bit, less fidelity needed. And so I'm like happy. I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to play with all the tools. I'll pay my $30 subscriptions here, my $30 subscriptions here, and see what we end up with. But yeah, I was trying to think, okay, when I press play, on or press go on Manas, I was like, oh, this is the end. Literally, this is the end. This is the end of SAS. If this works, it's like this game is over. But yeah, there's
Yeah, I've
there's
had the
something to
same
go.
thing. Like I've had the promise of beautiful video creation through
Right.
AI, and you'll go on, and big fans of these platforms in general. But if you go on Leonardo AI or Kling AI or any of these image generator AI enabled tools, you see what's created, and you're like, oh, this is the future. We don't need graphic designers anymore. Like, you know, all these roles are dead. But then when I'm in there and I'm prompting, and I don't think I'm stupid, like I'm doing what I'm told to, and I'm doing, to your point, I went through tutorials in the back end. I'm really prompt engineering the hell out of this thing. And then when I show it, it's got six fingers still. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I feel like you promised me a lie.
yeah,
So we
yeah,
are in this weird part of the curve where I'm like, I know it's possible, but for the everyday person, like what someone said to me fairly recently, and it really rang true. I wonder if it does for you, Pete. It's AI is raising the floor, but not the ceiling. It's making some really mundane tasks easier, or just another amazing tool to use. I love using it if I'm spinning out about something that happened to me during my day, and I can just talk to ChatGPT about it. That's
mm,
a really helpful thing. It's raising this floor. But am I better at my job? Am I smarter than I was 6 weeks ago? Are my LinkedIn posts any better? Is my Substack any better? Is my screening process any better? Not really.
mm,
What I'm good at, I'm no better at. What I
yeah,
really suck at, I'm a little bit better at.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that's good perspective actually. We're getting like incrementally a little bit better at a time. Yeah, I mean, you work for Google, like one of the like Notebook LM, for example, is something that
It's pretty genius, that one,
is
yeah.
pretty cool. So I have to do either conversations like this or even with Soma, do a lot of talks about various different, whether it be health or all these different topics. And so I'm generally researching something. So
Yeah,
Notebook LM for me now is just like this
that
great
is
way.
a
Yeah.
incredible tool. I used it for two use cases that I found
Mm,
incredible. One was just getting all my YouTube podcast episodes, dumping them in there and saying, create a multi choice quiz. So I was like, see, look at the things you'd learn if you listen to my podcast. Now, if I had to do that myself, could you imagine how long that would take?
yeah.
It was almost instant.
Yeah.
And, white papers around
Mm,
AI, like really technical concepts. That
yeah.
would be a grind to read through them. You put them in, turn it into a podcast. All of a sudden, it does absorb into your brain a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, I was there's the situational analysis white paper that came out, and it's like 167 pages, and it's deep and dense and incredible. But I was like, yeah, nah, give me the podcast version of this, and suddenly it's
100%.
pretty. But even the way you can explore within the tool itself, like you can dig into ideas and concepts, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you're right. You can ask it
Hmm.
questions,
Yeah.
based on what's in it. Yeah, that is incredible. Notebook LM just kind of blew my mind. I was like,
Mm.
how is this the first draft that I've
Yeah.
ever seen?
Yeah.
Normally it takes us a few years.
To get to it. So you mentioned you have two kids. How old are the kids?
I have a 5-year-old boy called Byron, and I have a 3-year-old girl called Imogen, but we call her
Beautiful.
Immy.
Oh, nice. Byron, Imogen. Good names, beautiful. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I have a 13-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a nearly 1-year-old.
You're in
Um,
the trenches, mate.
I'm in the trenches. I am in the trenches.
What's a long weekend to you? Nothing. It's just more work.
Oh my god. Honestly, if we could have been at somewhere, so we very rarely get somewhere to ourselves, but this long weekend we actually did, and we thought it'd be a great idea to organize an Easter egg hunt with like
Oh,
50 kids.
oh
And
shit.
yeah, exactly. We went very quickly then from
Oh,
oh,
that's sweet
to,
to. Oh, you're nuts.
I was like
20
something is
kids is a lot.
yeah, something's gonna break. Something
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
something broke. But anyway. the way yeah, so we have kids, and so yeah, the one of the key ideas around this podcast is that I'm getting people who are at the coalface, as it were, who have access um, to see where how this space is evolving, but also have kids. It's really useful when they do because they kind of get the nuance around this. But how are you thinking about education specifically with the kids? So, is there anything you're thinking about? Is there anything you've seen now as like, okay, I can start integrating this now, or still early doors because the kids are pretty young, right?
Oh, I love this question. And I love the whole concept. Like, this is so genius because I think not enough people are talking about this. Like, how, we're all talking about how we're going to use tools and make sure we don't lose our jobs in the world of AI or upskill. But we're also parenting at the exact same time, many of us. One thing that I have definitely noticed my husband and I are leaning in more because we've got a very traditional background. We went to school, high school, university. We both did engineering. It's all very like not a whole lot of thought behind it and not a whole lot of reflection. It was kind of, you just kind of do that. And that's what's expected if you want to be so called successful. I don't really necessarily agree with that, but that's at the time what I thought. With my children now, both my husband and I, though we both have, full time careers and we love our careers, we really butt against that approach of one, external validation at all and doing things because you think it looks good on paper and going to uni purely because you think that that's the path that you need to do. But the sooner you start thinking for yourself, as someone who had spent, the good part of the last 15 years of my career just doing things that I thought looked good on paper, I would never wish that on my children. And in this world of AI and constant change and constant upheaval and constant upskilling, I don't think you can bet on your career in the same way that we did before. I'll do law, I'll be a lawyer, that's my whole career, it won't get disrupted. If I don't feel like using technology, I just won't. I just don't think you can get away with that kind of closed mindset anymore. What do you think, though? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's the big question. So my take is that past the next 5 years, I think it's very hard to see past that event horizon, as it were, from a technology perspective. And so when I think about like jobs, like longer term, like 10, 15, like entry level jobs as well, it's actually very hard for me to get my head around like what that looks like because I just think fundamentally it will be so different. I think that. But what I do think will be useful is essentially founder mindset. So my background is as an entrepreneur, like I've constantly been having to adapt to constantly new information, new challenges, and build the tools, not just mental tools to do that, but also like with my body, like how do I actually be and navigate those challenges, like in my body. And so I think a broader subset of skills. So adaptability, as you mentioned, the ability to kind of learn, continue to learn, just have that continuous mindset around it. I think understanding passions and curiosities are going to be really key. I think, like you said, this idea of just this, I learned to be an engineer or a lawyer. Yeah, I don't know. I can go both ways, and because from the conversation we've just had, having deep expertise is one
Yeah,
thing, and
true.
understanding that, but then the like I think for kids, like the entry level just isn't there. I mean, like if you've been a lawyer for 20 years and you understand all the the nuts and crannies of an industry, you can understand how you can solve that problem. But if you're literally reading case files for the first time at university and then it's like I'm learning law from like this zoomed out perspective, what advantage do you really have there to a model that can read the same things. So
It's
um,
such a good shout. And I mean, like, I agree with that wholeheartedly. You know, it's very hard to leverage technology and build something significant if you also haven't felt all the pain points for
mm,
many, many years. And if you're just kind of like, I'm sick of that, I'm bored of that, my attention span isn't there, which
mhm,
frankly, uni really does teach you. I,
yeah,
for the most part of my engineering degree, was not loving it.
yeah,
Didn't have a big support network, had to just grind myself to get that degree. That's a skill set in and of itself.
yeah,
And I've never really regretted that piece of paper, if I'm honest.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there is something to that. I mean, yeah, as you say, the ability. It's almost like this idea of mastery, and so we're almost like coming, but where I think it's actually coming back in vogue like a little bit. This idea of actually spending time to create mastery around a subject, to master the skills around it for the like learning for the sake of learning. To have that skill set. Um, but yeah, from I think in the shorter term, I think for like my eldest daughter who's like 13, I feel like there could be a crazy amount of opportunity in the short term. So like the next 10 years could just be this explosion. Anything that she could think of creatively, having a broad enough scope of idea and like picture of like what something might be, you're just going to have incredible tools to bring those to life. And so I think imagination and play and those creative elements are going to be like very important. Um, but yeah, I'm just thinking about you hear people talking about showing someone an app and then being able to kind of re-engineer that app by just kind of like essentially showing it. It's like, so like what does that mean? Like where is the uniqueness, like what will be unique in that world? Like everything, if it goes that far, then is everything just available on order like whenever? um I think hobbies, like, honestly, are going to be really important, and like how we find um life meaningful. We've don't forget, we come from an age where people are working like hundreds of hours a week. For the majority of like, if you go back, even a couple of hundred years, the majority of the planet was in some sort of, indentured service. It wasn't like people were like working to get kind of meaningful, joy from it. It was, you woke up when it was the sun come up, and you finished work when the sun come up, and you did that 7 days a week, and you didn't get to keep a lot of that. The Industrial Revolution changed that, but you still had like these big long hours. And so maybe we are coming to a world where, I mean, Tim Ferriss wrote that book, a few years ago, The 4 Hour Work Week.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I remember this.
and
It was in our house, I won't
yeah, I think
lie.
everyone had a copy of it. It's like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But I think that the idea behind that is just like, okay, if you can condense, automate, like focus on like the vital few things that are actually keenly important in your life, do you actually create more time? So I do think that there will be more leisure in some way. I'd be very surprised if there is not just we don't have it might be a 4 hour work week, but it might be a 4 hour work day. And I think for an education perspective, the same. Kids go to my kids turn up to school, what, 8, 9 o'clock, finish like 3:30. Like, how much of that time is actually properly structured learning? Yeah, how efficient is the classroom and how they're actually teaching? So I'm excited by the idea of almost like a mentor technology where my daughter goes to school, the technology truly understands who she is, what her skills, what her likes, what her learning capabilities, and just really target something specifically to who she is. And you know what? She might study for like 90 minutes and it might be so condensed around that, then, she can go and play for the next like 3 or 4 hours. That sounds pretty great to me.
Doing her hobbies that she loves that are still
Yeah,
kind of learning, but a different part of your brain. I
yeah,
really resonate, like that really resonates with me, especially there's a lot of pressure on parents
yeah,
to be educators because they
mm,
come home with homework, and I don't have an education background, supporters, but also disciplinarians. Like it's just a lot of pressure. If their education was a bit more targeted, and who knows if AI was able to map your natural, maybe you've got a great attention span and are great at math,
mm,
but English and other subjects not for you,
yeah,
and there's no penalty to that. That is
yeah,
just the way you're wired, and you become 10 out of 10
yeah,
mathematician. You become an
yeah,
absolutely exceptional, whatever you want to be, engineer, what have you. Brilliant. That is no worse than the child that is creative and entrepreneurial,
yeah,
but it's a completely different headspace. When I
yeah,
was growing up, it was very much you have to be good at everything. And if you're
mm,
bad at a subject, say English, you're working to getting that grade up. You're
yes,
not working on going from a 9 out of 10 at maths to a 10 out of 10 at maths. You're fine at that, ignore that, but get your 4 out of 10 English to a 7 out of 10.
hmm,
I'm not sure how I feel about that though, if
yeah,
I'm honest.
yeah, yeah. The idea of one of the things that I find appealing is the idea of more like project based learning. And so if you think about how you learn now in a work environment, you have a project, you have some skills that you bring into that project, and then there's unknowns and things you have to learn. And because to solve those problems, you need to learn these things. And so you're motivated, you have a why to learn those things. Um, I find that a lot easier. I don't know about you, but I feel like that is a lot more natural for me. I learn things. Like I used to be the kid that would be, studying to do the specific like history assignment, and then I would find this, incident that happened, in the 1800s or whatever, which was completely unrelated to that subject. I would find myself like sat there like wanting to read that, but I was like, okay, like I'm
But
not
that's
allowed
not
to
the
do this.
kind of learning I'm allowed to learn right
Yeah,
now, which is
yeah,
a shame because you clearly had a passion there and it was
yeah,
like, no,
yeah,
focus on this thing.
yeah. So yeah, I think this idea that now we're in English, now we're in math, now we're in science, now we're in history. Um, I don't I don't think surely that will evolve. I don't know. I get the sense that that would evolve. There are even so I've seen some like schools in the US in like Austin that have really kind of like developed this project based learning, and so you have a project and these are things that and then so you go off and so maybe a project in your project you have to learn photosynthesis, but you understand because of the project like why you're learning photosynthesis rather this kind of like industrial factory rote memorization like idea of like now you will sit, now you will like digest this and repeat back to make sure you understand it. It's like just feels
I'm like
pretty
this about everything. I'm like
yeah,
this at yoga class. If I'm going to
yeah,
hold a plank, tell me why.
yeah,
Like if I'm
yeah,
going to be having
yeah,
to do this task, like I find it so much more motivating if I know the why
mm,
about anything.
yeah,
I don't know if you agree. Like even
100%, 100%,
learning a new skill, say in martial arts, if they're
mm,
like, this is helping you with your balance, it might
yeah,
feel like you're just doing crunches. The reason
yeah,
you're doing this is so that when you're on the mat and doing these moves, you've
yeah.
got a stronger core. I used martial arts as an example. I've never done it, but I assume that that happens.
Perfect. I love the example
Thanks
and
so
this is like
much.
this
I'm an
is a,
expert.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's so true, isn't it? Like the why, like understanding the why. Yeah, with my like 13-year-old daughter now, I do like feel for her because she has these subjects and some of them she like feel passionate about, and then others it's just like why am I learning this? And at the moment it's just like, well, the reason you are learning this is to get this outcome, but
Yeah.
it's not like it's if you're just trying to memorize to recite. I used to have friends at like university who were just incredible crammers of information, They would like absorb within like 48 hours. They would go into an exam and they would just go bang,
This
and
is
like
my
they would walk
husband.
up.
I want to smack him. He's so good at tests.
Yeah,
So good. I was never good at tests. I
yeah,
don't know about you, but it
no,
made me, and it makes you think that you might not be as smart, but it's just
mm,
the system that it's. I'm actually trying to unlearn behavior, which is external validation as well.
mm,
Like if you give me an A, I guess I'm an A student. If you give
yeah,
me a B, I identify as a B student, and it's
mm,
not intrinsically I love this thing, and it's not really about the outcome. It's kind
yeah,
of more about the learning. I don't know if your daughter can do that better than I did, because the system feels very much like, well, what your teacher grades you as is what you
yeah.
are. So
I think that's very hard. I mean, I think there's validation. Yeah, I can definitely see when my my daughter feels like she's doing well in an area, she's suddenly very motivated in that area. Um, there is that validation. The other one, which is huge, which when I think of like a tutoring platform of some description, an AI tutoring problem, it's like one of the biggest whys and validators for a teenage girl. Guess what it is? It's not the parents, it's not the teachers, it's the friendship group, right?
I was gonna say,
Yeah, it's like everything. So I've
yeah,
coached my daughter since they were under sixes. They're now like under
yeah,
14s, and so I've seen the evolution of like how they actually listen to me. For example, I
yeah.
can tell you now, you know, it's not a great deal compared to how it
You are
was. But
not even a little bit like a teenage girl, Pete. So
yeah,
good luck with
exactly.
that.
Need to work on
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot
Yeah,
Matt. Well,
it's very intrinsic. It's kind of
mm,
like they get tribal, like they've got their
mm,
tribe,
mm,
and it
yeah,
really impacts them. To be honest, like I'm trying to think back. I went to an all girls school, so it was
mm,
very much, yeah, it was very,
yeah. How do you
very
find that?
clear. To be honest, I liked it
Mm,
because, I mean, I've got a daughter and a son, and my husband's
mm,
really adamant about a co-ed school. He went
mm,
to a co-ed school, and frankly, I think he thinks it's better for boys. Who knows? I'm not a man. I don't know whether that's true or false.
mm,
I like my husband a lot. He seems like a good guy, so I'm definitely not anti, co-ed.
mm,
But I went to an all girls school and I really liked it. And the rationale I often give, I'm not proud of it, is I think I would care about my looks more if they were boys.
mm,
And it really, I never once thought about the way I looked. So it was really about the friendships and it was really about the learnings. And yeah, the only time I'd see boys is maybe on the school bus on the way home. It was
yeah,
just such a small part of the day, you
mm,
know?
yeah.
So, and then I did engineering, which was basically like going to an all boys school in 2005, I'll tell you. But by then I felt a lot more like, I don't know, it just didn't feel like as big a deal at that age,
Mm, yeah,
going through the puberty and all of that. I don't
yeah.
know. Does that resonate? Or I don't know.
I would be like a pretty hard yes on that. I can remember going
Yeah,
to like high school for me personally, anyway, and it was yeah, it was how do you get some sort of attention from the opposite sex?
totally. It's how we're
For
wired as
yeah,
teenagers, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so was I there probably thinking about my education in those years? Probably not. Yeah,
I mean, these are just facts, though, right? It's like,
yeah,
I mean, you can ignore it, but it's just the
mm,
reality. I mean, I think at the end of the day, though, I think for my husband, his rationale for co ed schools, just to be fair and play
yeah,
devil's advocate,
mhm,
is that from a young age, he, was surrounded by women and the way they'd act and respond and what was acceptable behavior and what wasn't. If
yeah,
he went straight from all boys to engineering and then tried
yeah.
dating, I think he'd really struggle.
That's valid. That is valid. Yeah, there are some
So
unique behaviors with
but I
boys.
don't
So
know why
yeah,
I'm making it gendered.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a very millennial way of looking back at it. So
Mm,
I'd caveat with that.
yeah. How do you think about engine? So you said both yourself and your husband are both engineers. Like, one of the the things over the last probably like 10 or so years is like learn, if you want a career, if you want to be, move into technology, wherever it is, learn STEM. Engineering would be a big part of that. Do you think that still holds true? Like, what do you think about, let's take engineering specifically, like what skills do you feel like you learn as an engineer do you feel like will still be transferable into this world that we're building?
I don't remember a whole lot from engineering, but I find myself still now being very logical.
Mm,
It kind of taught a level of rationale and logic, even when I'm feeling illogical,
mm,
even when I'm feeling emotion, or in the workplace, there's outcomes, and then
mm,
there's people, and I've got quite a community type role. But if I use pure logic and metrics, I can kind of go back to my comfort world of, like, these are the KPIs and this is what should work on a logical perspective.
yeah.
Engineering taught me a lot of logic.
Hmm.
And I'm comfortable in that space. It feels safe in that space because it's not never personal. Like, the universe works the way it does because of physics and math and things like that. And I think that that's a great foundation to have and to fall back on when things are confusing. So, like, I still do rely on stats, and I still do rely on that. To this day, even if I probably couldn't write you a reaction engineering equation off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
that's interesting, but it allows you to be to take things less personal in a work environment. It's very, when you're describing that, I was thinking that's very Buddhist in a way. The ability to like detach from the problem that you're facing, I guess. Yeah.
My mother in law is Buddhist, and if I
Yeah.
had even a smidge of her energy, I'd be very
Yeah.
thrilled.
Okay. Do you have any sort of like daily practices or routines that you have um, that help you turn up and be the Georgie that you want to be?
I discovered journaling a year ago.
Mm,
I'd heard about it a lot. People talked about it a lot. I'd tried meditation. I like yoga. There's things that I like. Journaling was game changing for me personally, especially kind of these things I was telling you about, Pete, around going for external validation. What you think of me matters more than what I think of myself. And I really had to unwrite a lot of, like, 35 years of being very into the grades I receive, the promotions I get, what other people think of me, what my
mm,
job looks like on paper. Journaling is where I was able to stream of consciousness, just write how I was feeling, which helped me establish my values. Like, I forced myself to be like, what are my values? I actually don't know. But through journaling, there were trends and themes that came across. And I won't tell you all of my values, but kindness is a really important one for me. A sense of adventure is really important for me. And all of that stuff was in me, but it wasn't until I started daily journaling
mhm.
that I actually started to be more in tune with, actually, what do I care about?
Yeah,
How do I cut through the noise and make decisions? Because I shouldn't have to ask everyone else. I'm in my mid-30s. What are we doing?
yeah. I I see that a lot though around that the mid 30s into the 40s. Suddenly people go, "Oh, who who do I actually want to be?" Like I think Carl Jung said, "Figure out who you want to be, or the world will decide for you." And I think we go through so much of our life, you know,
That's
living, whether it's
major.
parents or teachers or whatever it is, and then you suddenly go, okay, who do I want to be? And it opens up that process. I think there's just, maybe it's, entering like motherhood or, there's something that happens around that time where it's like, okay, for me, it's actually around parenting was a big game changer for me because it's like, um, what type of parent do I want to be? Like, I felt it, like I've done a bunch of work, gone through many evolutions and iterations of Peter, believe you me. But
That needs to be a book, but yes.
yeah, with, when I found out, two girls, and then the son was coming, little baby Tokyo. It was like, okay, what type of father do I want to be to this boy? And it was, again, there's like a big, catalyst to kind of like lean in again and evolve then. So yeah, I think children are the biggest catapult for evolution from
I
that
couldn't
respect.
agree more.
Mm.
I couldn't agree more. Having children, you start to see yourself in the way. Well, frankly, my parents were people pleasers, so I became a people pleaser.
Mm.
And there's a lot of good in that, caring about others, and probably human instinct comes into that.
Yeah.
But I don't want my kids to value other people's opinions above their own, and the little micro behaviors that come from that, like putting yourself down to be likable. And this big tall poppy syndrome thing in Australia, which I get it, like we don't want people to be too, like, you know obnoxious, but
Yeah.
I think it's gone too far. I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I mean, I'm English as well, and like to be self-deprecating.
You guys are the
In the,
pros at this, yo.
it's like, just wait there while I just like lie down and like prostrate myself to,
It's like you all need a hug on like a
yeah,
nationwide level.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And my wife,
Australians can't figure it out though, because we've
yeah,
got the
somewhere in between.
American like bravado and then the English like
Yeah.
self, and we're very confused.
Well, exactly. My wife's American, and so
Oh,
it's probably got the healthy balance there.
that's good.
There is, yeah, it is interesting. There is a healthy confidence that is, I don't know. I think success um, in the US is actually championed, and the champions, they respect. And the English, the Australians, though, with the whole tall poppy thing, the English, if you get to any sort of level, it's just like, how quickly can we tear you down? And so you have, I feel like, if you look at, turn this like into sport, but like the UK, for example, has a lot of underperforming sports, for example, because at that level, there's a mentality. There's it gets too
Oh
big. It gets too
yeah.
big.
Yeah.
Um, mm,
I lived in London for a few years and loved it, but
mm,
like just a random reflection is like people are not flashy about brands and what they wear, like as a whole, right?
mm.
Whereas you'll go to other places, and if they've got a designer handbag, you are going to see it, like
Yeah,
like it is. And I mean, whether that's right or wrong, it's just kind of indicative of
yeah,
whether you think people will be supportive or whether
yeah,
they'll make you feel really bad about
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. It's an interesting insight. But yeah, I think that's part of the evolution. I think that's a great thing. All the wonders and joys of having kids, the trials and tribulations, but um, they're going to make you evolve. So, get ready.
Sometimes I hear my mother's voice when I speak to my children. I'm like, oh, it's happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So where do you think this is going from? So I was writing something the other week, and I was thinking about like the mail room, and how, like, people started in the mail room and then climbed the way up and were suddenly CEOs, and then there wasn't the mail room anymore. And then I was thinking about my own first job in an ad tech company. It was like a uh, operations assistant. I would load up like the bid data for the into the media auction and upload creatives and stuff like that. And kind of probably still exists like a little bit today, but yeah. What do you think the intern role in like 10 years will look like? How do you think it will? Can you see that far?
10 is a long time, Pete.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. You give me
Look.
5.
All right. This is not recorded or anything, right? Like it can't come back to bite me at all.
Making notes in stone.
Turn this into a screen grab.
Yeah.
Um, I think you're going to need to be getting into people's DMs more and hustling more and offering to volunteer more. I don't think if you want the kinds of roles that are competitive. And even now I'm noticing this. How do you stand out? You know, it's not enough to have a degree anymore. Everyone's kind of bored by that. It's, are you showing you're passionate? Are you building stuff by yourself? When I speak to the AI Accelerator cohort, these are very successful AI startups,
Mm-hmm.
and I ask them how they hire. They want to see what you've been building
Mm-hmm.
without anyone watching you, because you're genuinely passionate, you genuinely care, and you're sharing it because you kind of want feedback, and it's not really about the job. Do it for the job if you want to, but that's what they're looking for, is real passion and real putting your money where your mouth is, that you care about this stuff. So if you want to work at Google, what are you building? What are you playing with? What tools are you using? And then a little bit of hustle in terms of go to people's LinkedIn and tell them why you care and share your stuff. And if it doesn't go anywhere, cool, on to the next. I think you're going to need to hustle a lot more in the future, because
Yeah.
that degree isn't going to have the same cachet that it once did.
It's so interesting when you phrase it like that, because I hear. I was just thinking some of the things that come together around like building something for the sake of building it, the mastery in that. But also, if you think about what we were talking about with regards to validation, like you're building for the love of it, for the passion of it, for the curiosity of it, not for external validation in it as well. And I think that's where mastery is. That's where
Mm.
flow is. That's where all of these, like all the good stuff of like peak human experience. Um, so I'm excited about that. I think that's great. I think you see that in elite performers today, um, and I think that's a skill that we can actually cultivate within children. So that's a good one.
I find people are really
Mm,
genuinely impressed by niche skills too. Like,
mm,
I don't believe in you've got to be an engineer now to be building an AI company.
yeah.
Um, that's being completely democratized. If you're obsessed with crochet and you've mastered crochet and it's just a talking point, and also you're applying for this job, I think
Yeah.
people see a lot of characteristics that came about you being that passionate about that
Mm,
hobby, and they see that as, well, I want them on my team because they clearly, one, will be great to work with, and two, are unashamedly pursuing something because they love it and they're not doing it for you know notches.
Can I tell
Yeah,
you a funny story?
please.
Related to this? So
You're into crochet.
it's close. It's close. So when me and my business partner left Microsoft at like 28, we had this idea around programmatic trading for digital video. Anyway, we were going pitching all these different VCs. We had to put our pitch deck, pitching all these US technology companies as well, and so we had to put our CVs together. And on my CV, like very proudly, was black belt in karate by me. I was like first dan in karate. And me and Josh, Howard, argued for hours about whether this is going. We still joke about it today. I think he even wrote on my LinkedIn profile, like, specifically about that. But do you know what, Georgie? I am going to record this little snippet. I am going to send it to him and just tell him very categorically how wrong he was. So thank you. Not that I need his validation.
Oh, not that you do. I want it in your LinkedIn bio. It's a conversation starter too.
Yeah,
You'd be
it is.
surprised. You
Mm,
really would. I actually was really spicy in my CV. Can't remember which iteration of it, but I
mm,
put like heavy metal music.
yeah,
Like, if
yeah,
that turns you off,
yeah.
maybe we shouldn't work together.
Well, that's it. I mean, you are about to spend a hell of a lot of time with someone, probably for the best that you're honest.
There's worse things than a black belt in karate.
There you go. Yeah, cool. Well, this has been fun.
It's been
Yeah,
super fun,
yeah,
super fun. Maybe I want to be a guest more often. This was
yeah.
actually not as scary as I
There
expected.
you go. You're
Maybe you're
good at it.
just an exceptional host.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'll do it again and be like, oh no, I hate this.
No, So remind me, where can people find out about your podcast and a little bit more about you if they want to find you, Georgie?
I'm weirdly popular on LinkedIn these
Oh
days. It
yeah.
wasn't really the plan, but it's it's very flattering. So Georgie Healy, Healy. And my podcast is like my passion project. It's not affiliated with my day job at Google. It's my own personal project, talking about things we're passionate about and hobbies. It's called In the Blink of AI, and it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts. Apparently, it's on Apple Podcasts. I don't have any Apple products, so feel free to tell me if it's not. And the producers have been lying to me all this time. But yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. This was a real pleasure, Pete. Thank you so much for asking me. I had a ball.
Amazing. And if somebody wanted to apply to the incubator, the
Yes.
Google incubator, how do they do that?
Yes. So we will actually be opening applications in a couple of months. If
Mhm.
you're an AI startup in Australia and you've had funding and your seed and Series A stage, I would like to caveat. Women get 2% of the funding in Australia. So if you are not seed or Series A and you're building with AI and you're a female founder, please also apply. There's other metrics that are equally impactful, like your revenue, like your customers, like the product that you've built, that will factor into that decision making as well. So follow me on LinkedIn. I'll start posting about that more regularly. We do have a website as well, but couldn't for the life of me remember the handle. So
Awesome. Georgie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time.
thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. Thanks.
I've